Great.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week, another episode of the Operation Miss podcast, where we are tackling the maternal health crisis by interviewing some amazing people like our guest today, Miss Starlynn. And I'm Jessica. I'm one of your co hosts. And we also have Catherine here. Say hey, Catherine.
Hello, everybody.
Okay, so Starlynn is here to share with us her birthing experience and her experience with dealing with, I'm going to let her introduce it, a very unique and rare heart condition postpartum. And so, Starlynn, thank you for being here with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
so that heart condition that she has is PPCM. Can you explain to the people what that means, what it stands for, and we'll go from there.
So there's two different ways to say it. You have postpartum cardiomyopathy or peripartum cardiomyopathy, and it's pretty much where the heart weakens after. It can happen. Postpartum of birth, or 6 weeks before you're due to give birth. It's just something you have to look out for. Um, And me, I was 19. I was 18 when I got pregnant, had my son a day before I turned 19. So I wasn't educated in the field of, those things. Although I watched a lot of Grey's Anatomy, I was not a doctor. and and it was definitely an eye opener for me, because the first couple months I was shut off as if it was, I had gas, or, might have been my asthma acting up. So I wasn't aware of what it was for, at least a couple months after I gave birth. And I think that kind of set the tone for me, not knowing what it was, but finding out that it was something so rare that you don't hear about. People don't explain it to you, or you don't see many people going through it. And I can say, until it happened to me, I swear I heard nothing about it. Like, I didn't know what it was, until it happened to me, and it was just like, I heard from someone everywhere what it was or what it do. And I guess people have their own experience. But I'm 5 years in the game, 5.
Yeah.
And I yeah, I'm stuck on God's promise, because it is hard. It's not easy. And I've definitely been in a space where I think now more so than ever, I've been in a space where I want to raise awareness. I want moms to know, always get the necessary tests to make sure, you don't go through those things, or to make sure it's something that you're not experiencing. And I know
Yeah.
the different, what I'm saying, there can be a number of reasons for having chest pains, or a number of reasons for shortness of breath, but
Right.
it's definitely an eye opener.
Yeah. So I want to backtrack because that was a really good point. A lot of the symptoms of PPCM, so postpartum or peripartum cardiomyopathy, are similar to symptoms that you may be experiencing towards the end of your pregnancy anyway, like the swelling, the shortness of breath, the things like that. So and you said that you were complaining of those symptoms to providers for a while and they just brushed them off, kind of thinking that they were just like normal symptoms. What what happened or what symptoms occurred that made them want to check more closely and diagnose you with that?
So it actually wasn't a symptom. It wasn't a symptom that made them want to check. It was this female African American nurse, and I had been to the same hospital 3 or 4 times. And I kept telling them, something wasn't right. I wasn't feeling too well, and they kept telling me, it's just gas, because I had a cesarean. They kept telling me, it's probably your organs shifting. They kept telling me all kind of things. And I explained to my dad one day. I was like, by the way, he's my number one advocate. I love that man. I kept telling
Mhm.
him, like, something is wrong. Like, I don't feel well. There's nothing, nothing is helping. They gave me remedies, to try and see if it was gas, to settle it. Because I do have gastritis. So it was just like, they kept pushing it off as that. And I went to the ER. July 31st to be exact. I went to the ER, and it was this African American nurse, and she was young. You can tell she was new in her field, but she knew what she was talking about.
Yeah.
Just she just kept saying, she's been here more than 3 times. And at this
Mm.
point, it will go into the pediatric side because I was 19. I was so young.
Wow.
It's like, she's been here more than once. She was like, she's complaining. And then they did an EKG, which is something they hadn't done before. They did an EKG and noticed
Wow.
that I had tachycardia. So she was just like, she asked me, she was like, "Are you by yourself?" I was like, "Yes, ma'am." She was like, "And you don't have, someone older with you, to push for these things?" I was like, "No, ma'am, because the people I do have are at home taking care of my son. He was a fresh two and a half
Yeah.
months. So he was, still an infant, so he needed that care." Um, and so she was like, "Okay," she was like, "Give me a minute." And when your mom look at you a certain way, so she's about to get down to business.
Girl.
Yes.
Look, and it was just like, okay, something's about to get done, something's about to happen. And she went on and she came back in, and when she came back in, the lady was just like, "I'm gonna take you for an x-ray." She's like, "We're gonna get some tests started on you." So they went to doing all these things, and I can just remember they gave me something for pain, and I remember going to sleep, but I remember waking up to 3 nurses and 2 doctors and a cardiologist. So it was just like I'm 19, so I'm looking around, I'm like, okay. So I asked, I'm just like, and at this point it was a shift change. So the lady that was there with me before, she was still there. So I asked, I was like, what's going on? She
Mhm.
she was like, "Is there anybody you can call?" At this point, I thought I was dying. You don't ask those questions to somebody, especially young. So she was just like, she's like, "Is there anybody you can call, to sit with you?" I was like, I can give somebody a call. I called my godmom. And she's always been, a person for me. So she came and she sat with me for a little while. But the cardiologist didn't come back until my dad came back, which then I knew it was serious. So he was just like, we did some tests. My troponin levels were high. And that's where they, determined to do an echocardiogram. They did the echocardiogram, and you could see it in the lady's face when she was doing it, that it was something wrong. And she was like, "Do you have any pre-existing heart conditions?" I was like, "No, ma'am." I said, "Before I had a kid, I was just as healthy as can be." She was like, "The cardiologist will be in to speak with you in a few minutes." So I was like, "Yes, ma'am." And I just sat there for a while, and I'm just like, okay, all these things are rambling through my head. And the cardiologist came in, and he was like, "You're young." He was like, "So I know, it'll get better for you." And I'm just like, "You can't determine something will get better if you don't know the extent of it." And he was,
Mm.
you have what we call postpartum cardiomyopathy, or in other words, peripartum cardiomyopathy. He said it's something that happens 6 weeks before you give birth or after birth. He said it can he said it can occur up to 5 months after you have birth. So I was like, okay. I was like, I mean, I asked him, I said, well, what's the extent of it? Like, do it get better? Is it, something we can do about it? And he was just like, your heart is only pumping right now at 20 to 25%. So we're going to,
Wait, what?
yeah, we're going to give you what, I guess, because it was held off for so long. I was having those symptoms.
Yes.
I started having symptoms the 27th of May. And I think it came from, because after I had my son, I was in a hospital from May 3rd to May 25th. I was in a state where my kidneys were failing, and now I believe people when they say having a kid is the closest thing to death you'll get, because
Mm.
definitely a scary experience. But when they discharged me,
Wait, can we pause right here?
yes, ma'am.
So, okay. So you had a C-section. You said you were in the hospital for like about a month because of
Yeah,
kidney problem?
yes, my kidneys had started failing. Um,
So so at that point, I mean, that's obviously like a high risk delivery, so you would think they would have a closer surveillance on you, especially if you kept coming back to the hospital after that.
Right.
And you said that
where it
you
came
said
in.
that your oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I think because I was so young, and didn't know how to advocate for myself, or didn't know what I was advocating for, that they would take the necessary steps, up until I, started to.
Wow.
Starlynn, baby girl. So can we back it up a little bit more? What caused you to have the C-section? And then what people should know is that it is not on you. It should never be on you as the patient, as the mom, to have to advocate for your symptoms to be looked into, or for you to have closer monitoring after you already spent a month in the hospital, you know? And so I am very sorry. We are very sorry that you even had to do that, because at 18, sometimes even if you have the education and kind of know, you've been on Instagram, I guess, learning about some of this stuff, it's hard to stand up for yourself, especially when you're alone. And like you said, you had your dad, you had your godmom, but they're
Right.
watching over the baby. Who is taking care of you? That is your healthcare provider's job. Sorry.
Yeah. So I ended up having to have a C-section because, for one, I was in labor for 46 hours.
Wow.
46 hours.
Were
I
you
got in,
induced?
I got induced May 3rd at 1:30. 1:30 on a dot, and my water had broke May 4th. So May 4th through May 5th, he had went 24 hours without having any fluids. Um, I went to I got 10 centimeters, and I went to pushing, and of course, I had a very nosy kid. He's nosy and he's prone to noise. And as he was coming out, he stuck his head up and it got stuck in my pelvis. So I had to have an emergency C-section. And he, yeah, to this day, he still
Wow.
knows and he talks. But yeah, it was definitely an experience. And like I tell people, although it was my first pregnancy, everybody's pregnancy is not different. But, for me, that was my first. And I'm pretty sure it's definitely not happening again. It
I'm
was
so
definitely,
sorry you had that experience.
thank you. But it's, I don't, um, yeah, God knew what he was doing. He knew to give me one, because he knew if he didn't stop at one, I was going to keep having them. I like kids. So it's just like, yeah. But anywho, they had me do a testing for a life vest. I wore a life vest for 6
Wow.
months. Um, and normally they're like, it's not supposed to last that long. They thought medication was gonna fix it, but of course it didn't get any better with the medication. Um, so I ended up April 23rd of 2018. I ended up getting a defibrillator placed in. Um, and at least I thought that was, then I didn't know, they told me what a defibrillator was, but it wasn't really something I was educated on, because I'm 19. I'm not supposed to be going through this. So it was definitely
Yeah.
a scary. But I got my defibrillator placed in, and it was like
How old
hearing
was your
my.
baby then?
He was a month away from turning one.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
2 weeks from turning one. Um, and they had me down in bed for at least 6 months, because my body doesn't heal well. It doesn't take healing well. Um, and yeah, a number of things happened with that. But 2018 was one of my more easier years, because I was able to maneuver. I didn't have to go somewhere where I felt like I was being chained down because of a life vest. And with the life vest, it's just like a external defibrillator. So it's something that goes all around your body in certain spots, and then you have to wear like this vest and carry this little. It's like a box about this big that I used to have to wear. Um, and it was
We
definitely.
know, but we love that you're describing your experience, Starlynn, because a lot of people who are listening don't know. So you keep being detailed and explaining things, because it means so much more coming from someone who can speak like lay people speak. Sometimes as healthcare providers, we overcomplicate explanations, and I'll just speak for myself. I may, try to explain something. I don't do it as well as I could. if I were really thinking about the audience. So please continue thinking about the audience, talking with them about how you have to charge it. You know, sometimes you're hooked up to the machine, sometimes the batteries are portable, right? It's something that you really have to manage.
And it was, and I still have it now. So it's like, I don't have a life vest now. I have my internal defibrillator. So it's just like, the internal is a lot more. I don't know how to describe it. Prime example, not last night, the night before last, Wednesday night, I got a shock. I had a panic attack, and I ended up having a shock. So it was just like, it's like, when those things happen, we still have to get up and be who we are, because it's just like, just because you're going through something, it doesn't stop the world. The world still goes, and you still have to move with the world. So like I was saying, 2018 was one of my better years. 2019, I ended up getting sick. I got sick in February of 2019, and that's when my fluid really started to pick up. That's when I noticed I would, hold fluid, but it would be in my belly. It would be in my belly or in my neck. I didn't get it like in my hands or my feet like most people do. So it wasn't always looked at like, you have fluid. They had to actually, scan my stomach and scan my neck to see the fluid. And so 2019 was not a good year. But I tell people now, what's a small thing to a giant? If you're gonna
Nice, right.
push. Yeah, and COVID. I started seeing a transplant surgeon in 2019. And I ended up having to back down from seeing my transplant surgeon because COVID happened. And because I was traveling from one side of Florida to another side, it was just like they didn't understand. So it can be hot outside and I can come in. My last appointment I went to, I came and we had just walked in from the heat. And my forehead scanned like 100, my temp was 100 degrees. And for them, they called that a fever. So I wasn't able to go back to my transplant surgeon until things died down, which put me in the back end because it was just like, the process I had started, I had to start all over again because, yeah, people are inconsiderate. And I understand, COVID is real. And I know those things, happen. But it was just like,
In
yeah,
Florida, though, in the heat,
they don't
you
care.
think they wouldn't consider that? What?
There. They were taking it serious, and I feel like now they don't take it as serious as they should because it's still there. COVID is still happening. COVID is um yeah. And in 2021, 2020 was a year, but it definitely wasn't a year I counted myself out. I ended up getting my degree, so I was happy about that. I was working for a while, and I got that, and I succeeded with that. So it was just like I end up 2021, I told myself, no matter how hard things get, I was going to push and press my way. In 2021, I did just that. In of November of 2021, I was told that my EF had decreased. So I was, pushing 20 to 25. Um, and then December 21st, a couple of days before Thanksgiving, they told me that my EF had went down to 17 to 20%. Um, so I know the extent of how drastic that change was, because it's always been rocky, but I knew after 6 months that it didn't get better. It wasn't going to, unless we, took the necessary measures to make sure it did get better. And it didn't. And we tried to figure some things out, but it was, of course, when a heart speaks, it speaks, and you just follow it. So it was like, those things happened. And I was pressing because I was so determined to make sure things happen. And June 24th of 2022, my cardiologist gave me a life expectancy of 38 months because things wasn't getting better, and things didn't change. But yeah, we're stuck on God's promise, and this is not what he promised. So I'm here and I'm perfect.
Amen. 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 Okay, Starlynn. So how do you feel? Because we'll go back and review some of the things that you said, but Starlynn, you are 24?
Turned 24
You're
in May.
24. For those who don't know, EF is ejection fraction. So normally people's hearts operate at about 60% of its capacity. There are ranges, but let's say 60 is considered normal. You were told following your delivery that you were at 20 to 25%. And now at 24 years old, you're told that your heart is functioning at 17 to 20%.
15 to 20.
To 20%. So you have a sweet baby that I know brings so much joy to your heart. You have completed your degree, and you are currently working. But how do you feel?
Years. So this will be my first year teaching kindergarten. And it's something I've been wanting to do for a long time. And I told myself once I did it, I was going to do it. And I'm doing it.
Yes, 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 yes.
Oh, we
Okay,
need
so
more
talk to
teachers
us
like
because
you.
what's that, Jessica?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was saying we need more teachers like you. You have such a great attitude and you love kids. So thank you for choosing that field.
Yes, yes. We want moms to know how it can feel to not only have experienced what you're experiencing, but for you to be told, this is just going to go away. And now 5 years later, it's not gone away. In fact, it's gotten a little bit worse. So how do you feel? How are you feeling? How do you cope emotionally? How is your day to day?
Physically.
Yeah, physically. So just talk to us a little bit about that, and then we'll backtrack and talk about some of the other things after.
Hoping. I'd say have a village. A village is going to be, they're going to be that push when you don't want to push, and I'm so lucky to have the people that I do have, from helping take care of my son when I'm out in the hospital, or even when I need to talk. They're amazing. A village is amazing. I don't really, and I think my thing is I suppress a lot of things. I don't talk about it. I'm a very emotional person.
That's
so
too.
talk, so talking is just like, for example, telling you guys that they gave me an expectancy of 38 months. I don't think I've said that out loud. Um, I think right now I just want to cry, but it's just like you can't, because yeah, it's definitely not. I understand. Wanting to, and I think I'm more so upset than sad about it. It's the matter of my kid. I can fend for me, but my kid, he's 5. He don't understand a lot of what's going on, so I have to bear my emotions based on him, because he is a child. Um, and for me to be going through what I'm going through, you wouldn't be able to tell through my kid. He's the happiest, most joyous little thing. And he's so, yeah, he's definitely somebody that helps. So it's just like we have to we have to press. And I'm in a season now where I feel like my people are used to me being there for them all the time, being that person for them. But I'm in a season where I need somebody. And because I'm always so strong, people don't see that I need people. So it's just like I think about I tend to think about everybody else and not myself. And that kind of helps me get a lot of my emotions suppressed, because I'm not thinking about what I'm going through. And it happens. But I'm hanging on, like I said, to God's promise. And he ain't told me nothing different. So I know, I don't want to go through it twice. You explained it to me and I understood it. And I have my days, and I think I'm allowed to have my days. And I have them, but I always go back to you don't want to go through this twice, so when it's happening, I don't want to be like, okay, I already grieved about this, I don't want to grieve about it again, so I just hang on to the fact that it gets greater later.
Starlynn, let me just say this. Uh, your hope, your personality, your willingness to fight and increase awareness so that this doesn't happen to other people, your love for children and decision to just live life to the fullest, it is so inspiring. And it really helps us to understand why what we do, like why we have to keep doing what we're doing. Because honestly, Starlynn, I think about when Jessica talked about the follow up and the surveillance following delivery. I think about, well, what support were you given to maintain the function of your heart? What stress was decreased in your life? What, exercise? Was there a coach that was like, hey, let's get together and figure out what can we do with your diet? What can we do with your lifestyle? Is there anything that we can change to improve the outcomes or to decrease the strain on your heart? And I think that it's that's missing with the system. We can't always stop things from going wrong, but we can decide to walk the journey more closely with moms so that your heart function that you do have is preserved, maintained. Those transportation issues that you had, it's like, how do you drive from one side of the state to another, and you're having to do that with a decreased functioning heart? Like, and nobody thinks anything about that. I don't know. What I know is that with us listening to your story, we know that there are more gaps that we need to fill. So it's not just what we're doing, but now that we're looking and seeing, okay, how can we help moms with food insecurity, with, daycare, so that you're not always having to depend on the same people to support you, because it does take a village, but sometimes people don't have that village. So how can we help with that? How can we get doula sponsors so that you can be at home and really taking care of yourself and your baby and not having to worry about anything else? How can we get help with transportation so that moms don't have to worry about that? You didn't mention any issues with housing, but sometimes that's the issue for moms. They don't have the housing that they need. And so if we don't set a mom up to thrive, then we fail as a healthcare system. We are failing. And I think that the problem is that because failure is it's so commonplace now, and I hate to say that, but if Black moms are dying, and nothing is really changing substantially, then we are failing as a healthcare system. And so you inspire us, and you continuing to tell your story is going to make a difference. And God's promise to you, like you said, there's greater later. Girl, when you're here 30 years down the line, still fighting this fight and still speaking out for people, then people understand that sometimes what it takes is grit. Like, that's what you have. You have a determination to live your life despite what limitations are being placed on you, what time frames are being placed on you. Because for me, yeah, I guess it is kind of like an informed consent type of a thing for them to come and say, hey, this is how long you're expected to live. But at the end of the day, God is who chooses how long you live, not some heart function test that has been given to you. And so the fact that you're still smiling and still pouring into children, into your child and into yourself, it is so inspiring, Starlynn. And so we are honored to meet you. What we would love to do is get a watch on you, and we'll get back to this episode, but get a watch on you and help you see what's stress in your body and what's, what we can help you do to show up to life your best self. Because sometimes moms just need that guidance, and we're here to provide it. Like, we are here to provide it. You are 24 and you deserve to live the best quality of life that you possibly can. And so whatever we can do to help with that, like, we want to do.
Thank you. I said I wasn't going to say, but you're making that hard, okay?
Well, you don't have to cry, girl. We cry enough for everybody who comes on this podcast, don't we, Justin?
We do. I've been holding it back because she said she didn't want to cry. So I'm like, I'm not going to cry. But it's hard. It's hard. I'm so glad you said that, Catherine, because I was too. Like, we definitely want to get a watch on you and monitor you, and just, have you have some insight into the things in your life that are maybe increasing stress on your heart, and just give you some guidance of how you can manage those things, um, so that your heart won't be as stressed. And so you can keep on living, and you can see your greater later, because if that's God's promise, then it will prevail. That's what I know.
Yes, yes. That's what we know. One thing that you said earlier when you were talking about the different tests that you had. So ladies listening, when you are getting pregnant, thinking about getting pregnant, just make sure that you know those levels. We should all know how our heart is functioning before we go into pregnancy, because it works 50% harder during pregnancy. And then it goes up to working 70 to 80% harder during delivery. And so we need to know what we're working with. So I love it. You said EKG, you talked about troponin levels, you talked about having an echo done. And
Yeah.
then
And I think now, I just recently met a young lady. My cousin introduced me to her, and she's actually going through the same thing. She's a little older than me, um, and the fact that I was able to give her answers to questions she was asking, was such a joy to me, because it's just like, up until 2 years ago, I was definitely not a person to advocate, because for a year I didn't want to believe I was sick. I wanted to live life on edge. I was a teenager. I was, just maneuvering around life, so I didn't know, um, I guess, how serious it was, and really pinpoint on the sickness. Like, it wasn't. I didn't wake up like I was sick. I didn't talk like I was sick. I wasn't, because I wasn't. I just wasn't sick. I guess because I didn't feel it as much. Because my mind started away from being sick. Um, and then when it was just like, after I got my defibrillator, I think it became more aware to me, because I had to put a whole lot of things on hold. I had to stop doing a whole lot. I wasn't able to work for 6 months, so it was just like the stuff that I loved doing, I could no longer do. And that itself was enough for me to realize this ain't life. This is not how I'm supposed to be living. So it was then that I decided to speak out about it. And I think I went public with my, a lot of people, because the thing is, I worked, the people I work with, besides the people I work with and at home, people didn't really know. So I kept a lot of it inside, until I decided to go public with it. And it was just like my village became so much bigger. I had so many people reaching out. I'm in a couple of support groups, that I go to, and that I not really go to, but we meet over the phone, and it's just like that's what helped. And I was able to gain insight from there, and I'm able to share that with people today. So it's just like I want more to I want to be able to know more, to tell more. And I don't think if I sit around in my sickness, that's gonna work. Um, so I think, me getting out, me advocating, is definitely something that I look forward to doing, now, and in the future. Because if I don't do nothing else, I'm gonna talk. I'm gonna talk, and I'm gonna keep talking and keep talking. And I think that's where my kid gets it from. Because I'll be having to ask him sometimes, "Are you out of breath? Can you start over?" But I'm going to talk. And if I'm comfortable with you, we're gonna talk about everything, because it's just like I feel more at ease now than I was when I wasn't telling anybody what was going on. And I think holding that in caused a lot more stress, because it's like I didn't have nobody to talk to about it. I couldn't go to anybody. One of my cousins, we weren't close growing up, but we're like this now. She just found out recently she had postpartum cardiomyopathy. And I think for me, being able to help her through those nights where she's not feeling it, or she don't want to keep going, is definitely something I look forward to. Because it's just like I had my village, but it was like when I went home at night, it was me and my kid. So I didn't have nobody to go to at night. I didn't have nobody, the nights where I was awake because I was afraid to go to sleep, afraid of not waking up because it was, just that bad at one point. So it was just like, I like being able to be there for people. I like being able to, give that advice when it's needed, or, give that extra love when it's needed, because everybody don't get that, and I tell my kid, especially with my kid, I tell him now, everybody don't go home to love. So when you wake up in the morning, you choose to be that caring, happy person, because everybody don't get to go home like you come home to a mom that adores your whole life. People don't get to go home to that, so you make sure you're, what I'm saying, even if it's, hey, smiling at somebody, some people just need that. So you have to determine that that's, what you're going to give. And I try to base my life on the happiness of others. And I do it for myself too. And I understand, I have to be okay in order to help others be okay. But it's just the fact that, I'm able to, speak to moms now about their issues, and it's just like they get insight, and it's not, always was the bad, because there's some good to it, although it may not feel like it, there's some good to it, being able to wake up every morning, or what I'm saying, being able to see, some parents don't make it out, some moms rather don't make it out of this situation. um we just lost a heart sister recently. Her son was 6 months, and he is the happiest little thing, and his mom was a joyous person, so it's just like, he won't get to know what she was like, but I'm glad that he has people around him that's able to pour that love into him. But I don't it's nothing like a mom's love, so it's just like we have to look out for ourselves and then other women, because it's not easy, and it's not something that's talked about often. So it's definitely like we have to look out for those around us. Yeah.
Yeah. You talked about support groups, Starlynn. What support groups are you a part of? Before I forget, the other lab that really should be checked, if that really should be checked, period. We think all moms should get it checked before they even get pregnant, is their BNP. Um, and so just wanted to make sure to get that out of the way. But your support groups who are holding you up, and your heart sisters who apparently, you love like your real sisters. What
I
are
have
some of those groups?
so it's two that I go through on on Facebook. And then there's our founder. Her name is Brianna Henderson, and she is amazing. She's now a doula, which is pretty awesome because she gets to raise awareness every day. But it's called peripartum cardiomyopathy. Then it's, the in parentheses is PPCM. And then the other one that I use is Save the Mommies. Um, I use that one on Facebook and then on Instagram also. Um, but it's helping, whether it's to hear from other moms, or to see that, a mom was able to get that second chance. I have a couple sisters who just recently went through heart transplants and are doing amazing. um, it's so good to, know that they were down bad, but now that it's, a happier, it's, although things don't the world don't stop turning, but it makes it a lot easier for them. um and I think being able to enjoy someone else's success, whether it's, something you look forward to, or whether it's something um that they've been looking forward to know that there is hope somewhere, to know that there is light, after darkness, is pretty amazing. Pretty amazing.
Wow. Starlynn, thank you. I honestly, I don't have any other questions for you. Jessica, do you have anything else for her from a question perspective?
Not from a question perspective. I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It was so eye-opening. I know a lot of people have not heard of this, so I know that it will go far. It will educate so many people. You are such a light in the world, and you're a light in our lives now. And we hope to never lose contact with you, because you have truly, truly been a blessing to us today and to everybody who's going to listen to this for months and years to come. We are so, so grateful for you, and you will forever be in our prayers. And we definitely believe God's promise for you as well.
And for any other mom who is out there, just because something is rare does not mean that it is not important. And sometimes things that are called rare are really just underdiagnosed. And so for the women in your lives, watch them closely. Please watch them closely. Not everybody will land on Operation Mist, and we know that. But what we do know is that everybody has somebody who is a neighbor who can just, whether you're family or not, whether you're hired or not, that you can look out for those women around you and be that support for them. So we just, if you're listening and you know someone who is pregnant, especially a teen mom who hasn't been on her cycle for a long time before getting pregnant, or who doesn't have access to the resources that we may have access to as older women, 25, 30 women are now having babies around 30, 35. So they've been around a little bit longer, and they've just heard about a lot of different things. But if you know a woman who is going to give birth, support her in any way that you can. We really would appreciate it. And Starlynn, like Jessica said, we love you, and you are our heart sister for life. And so if you need anything, you reach out to us, and we will see everyone on the next episode.